Hi everyone. I'm going to do a virtual writing workshop today. So I'm going to try to do a couple things here. First, I'm going to review the construction of a ccot essay. This is primarily for those of you AOS students that missed the lesson while you were on the trip last week. I have a lot of AOS students, so I figured I would do a brief review of how to construct a ccot essay, and then those of you that feel like you have a good handle on it, you can just fast forward that part. Or you can listen to it if you feel like you need to go over the ccot essay again. So first off, a ccot essay is basically like a compare and contrast essay, but instead of comparing two different societies, you are comparing two different time periods. So you will either be talking about one civilization over the course of 200 or more years, or you will be focusing on a single theme like migrations or labor systems and talking about how they changed, that specific theme changed within a society. So you'll always have a large span of time to work with. You must choose 3 comparisons, either 2 changes in a continuity or 2 continuities and a change. Your continuity must be something that lasts for the majority of the time period. It does not necessarily have to last for the whole time period. As long as it lasts for the majority of the time period, we can count that as a continuity. Generally, I think changes are easier, but that's your call. So the example question that I'm going to be working with is, what were some of the major political, cultural, and technological changes and continuities in the West between 1984 and 2016? I picked a pretty small span of time because I just wanted to work with a time period that we're fairly familiar with, at least I am, because that's the span of my lifetime. And in that way I can at least show you the construction of a ccot essay. So, the simple formula for the introduction: you want to give me your place and time. You want to describe a continuity, a change, and another change or continuity. Here is a template for your thesis if you want to use that. You can look at that and try to incorporate that into your essay. And here is an example. Notice I put the odd one out at the top, so I put my continuity here first, and then a change and a change. The reason I did this is so that if I don't have time on the actual AP exam to write all 3 body paragraphs, hopefully I can at least get to my continuity and to my change, and therefore I've at least satisfied the requirement to have both, to answer the question fully, a change and a continuity. So notice that I do include cultural, political, and technological in all of these comparisons. You want them to be specific. You do not want to say politically threats to the United States changed, for example, for my change here. You want to specifically state the threat of communism changed to a threat from radical terrorist groups. You want to tell me what it was and what it changed to. Just like in your compare and contrast essay, you have to tell me both sides of the difference. You have to do the same thing in your changes in your thesis for the ccot essay. Body paragraph number 1, you state your comparison. Once again, this sentence can look very similar to the sentence in your thesis. You want to give me specific evidence. Try for 3 pieces of specific evidence per paragraph. Then you want to analyze the reasons for the change or the continuity. And then a 4th thing you need to do is analyze global context in every body paragraph. So this is the additional component to the CC essay. This is one thing you don't have to do in your CC essay. You do have to include global context in every paragraph of your ccot essay. That is also why we've saved the CCOT for the end of the course, because it's easier for you to come up with global context now that you've had 2 quarters under your belt. So, in the example paragraphs that I'm going to read, or I'll let you read them, the words in bold and underlined are evidence. The italicized words are indicators of analysis. These are words and phrases that you want to try to incorporate into your essay to show the grader that you are moving into your reasoning section. And the color coding correlates to the task being completed. So if you look at the color coding up here, evidence is going to be in purple, the reason section is in green, and the global context is in brown. A little bit more about global context. Global context can be accomplished 3 ways. You can accomplish global context by relating this topic to another time period, telling how the region of the world that you're discussing affected a different region, or how your region was affected by another region of the world. So you want to keep in mind, though, that global context must relate to the comparison that you are addressing in the paragraph. That is one thing that I've seen a lot in the migration essays that I've graded, is that sometimes your global context is irrelevant to the information that you included in the paragraph. So be very cautious of that. So I'm going to let you read through this on your own. You can always pause the video if need be, but this shows an example for body paragraph 1. This is the continuity. The citizens of Western societies continue to focus on the pursuit of entertainment. You'll notice the specific evidence, the target words for analysis, and then in brown, the global context. You will sometimes find evidence making its way into analysis and global context as well, and that is fine and certainly encouraged. Body paragraph 2 is the same thing, only now we're dealing with a change. Same color coding. The only thing that's different is I have a different color up here for the restatement of the change. So you have that, you have your evidence, your analysis in green. Pay attention to these target analysis phrases here. And then in this global context, I have basically related the this period that we're working with, the present day period, back to a former period, and talked about how ISIS and other groups are trying to restore the caliphate, which is something we talked about this year. Body paragraph 3. Again, I will let you pause it and read it over, but it's the same type of format. Here, for my global context, I basically related the invention of the internet to the printing press and talked about how, like the printing press, the internet has spurred a lot of social and political change, and in some cases can even backfire in places in China, and has actually had the opposite effect of causing the government to be more repressive. All right, so this is for the AOS kids. This is the question that you will be writing and submitting to turn it in on Friday. You received this in the packets that you guys picked up when you came to see me. This basically breaks down the question and tries to help you organize it in your mind, because this is a kind of confusing question. A lot of people in the past have written about things that are not migration. For example, mercantilism is not migration. The economic changes in a country is not migration. Colonization is not migration. What you want to focus on as you write your essay is the movement of people from one region to another. So one option, one way that you can go to this is focus solely on Europeans but you want to make sure you don't just talk about European migration to the Americas. You want to try to get at least two different regions in there, because that's what the question says. So if you focus solely on Europeans that are leaving Europe to go places, make sure you talk about two different places that they're going to. Another option would be to focus more on where they are arriving at, and the best option there would be if you want to focus solely on immigrants coming into America. That's fine, but you need to have immigrants coming from two different regions. So Europe and Africa would be probably the easiest examples for that. I also gave the class, after we did some brainstorming, I gave the class a list of changes and continuities. These are perfectly acceptable for you to use in your essay. The purpose of the migration essay is primarily for you guys to work on the format. So if you want to go ahead and use these as in your thesis, that's fine, or you can develop your own as well. You want to make sure you pick comparisons that you know about and you feel comfortable with, so that you can get the evidence and the reasoning in. So if you don't know a lot about Australia, you can pick something else, but you want to make sure you pick things that you feel comfortable writing about. But here are some examples, again, that you are welcome to use. All right, and this is where I'm going to stop, and I'm going to start PowerPoint 2, which is primarily focusing on the Unit 4 test.